structure of these episodes. It is clearly bigger than the current House of the Dragon show, because House of the Dragon's really just following 3 characters, maybe 4 if you count Alicent. This is following a ton of characters, and we're jumping all over the place here, from Numenor to some Southland town, up to the dwarves and the elves. Like we jump quite a ways, all over the place. So in that style, I'm not sure if you have a preference or not. I don't even know if it matters, but what are your thoughts on just having all these storylines that are kind of going off on their own? They have not really intersected at all yet.
Yeah, it's difficult to do, but they're doing it fine.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and Game of Thrones, the first Game of Thrones, the earlier seasons, they did a good job of this.
yeah,
Especially once Ned is, so obviously Ned kind of feels like the main character in the first season, but once Ned is dead, it really does take off. You've got Robb Stark trying to rally his men to fight. You've got Tyrion trying to handle the King's Landing crowd, as well as fighting his own battle against Stannis, who's got his own thing going on. So there's so many things. You got Arya running around, Jon Snow. Like, there's so many storylines, and they do a great job. And I think this show has really picked up on how to do that well. That being said, they have now done this twice in a row where they leave out a certain chunk of story. So
yes. So like last week, or episode 3, I really did miss not seeing the dwarf stuff.
Yeah.
But this week, yeah, I was okay not seeing the Harfoots.
Yeah. Now, I did really miss the dwarf stuff as well. I will also say they kind of did it. They could have done. Okay, how do I want to phrase this? What they could have done is had some of this dwarf stuff happen last week, episode 3, and then have the conclusion to that happen this week, giving more time for that stuff to play out. This is something we've talked about before, but because there's such a vast distance between some of these places, when you jump from one back and forth, you don't get a true understanding of how long time has passed. Because essentially we see Arondir being told to, he's got a choice to make. We then cut to Elrond saying he's going to go visit his friend again. He's telling the Celebrimbor. Then we cut to Galadriel. Then when we come back to Elrond, he's already back with the dwarves. So what could have been a multi-episode plot outline of this one episode, and that would have given the time dilation to really allow you to figure out, Elrond has to travel all the way back to the dwarves. Because they've put all of the dwarf stuff this episode, there is kind of that. There's just a weirdness to it of jumping around that I do worry if it gets out of hand, because I can see it getting to be a point where Elrond essentially is jumping back and forth between the dwarves, Celebrimbor, Gil-galad, and there needs to be more time in between for him to travel and talk with people.
Right. So
that's my one worry with the structure that they've fallen into with the last 2 episodes. I really think they came out strong with the first 2. Like, the first 2 had enough of everyone. Obviously, we didn't have the dwarves in the first one, but once the dwarves got going, I was like, okay, this is the style we need. But now it's kind of like each episode we might be missing an entire storyline.
Yeah,
that's what I'm worried.
Like, we're getting Harfoots for episode 5.
For sure. Harfoots are going to be the main part of episode 5.
So maybe we won't see, like, that whole Numenor thing might just get dropped next week.
Because I don't think we're going to follow Halbrand. Maybe we do. I don't think we do, though. I think we leave him and we go with Galadriel, but she's on a ship to Middle-earth, so that unless that ship encounters some issue, we're just going to skip that whole session because we're just going to assume she's sailing to Middle-earth. So I do think we're going to potentially run into problems down the road. Right now, it's okay.
I mean, we've only had it's only happened once so far that we skipped Okay, well, except besides the Harfoots this week, but episode 3 we missed the dwarves,
Mhm.
and then for episode 4 there was almost like a bit of a time jump.
Yes.
So that's what I'm thinking. We skipped the Harfoots this week. Episode 5, there's going to be a time jump for the Harfoots.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
That's what I think will happen.
Well, and that's the other thing. This is a problem I have with the Game of Thrones show right now. I don't like the time jumps. So
yeah.
you can do it for a few weeks, maybe a month. Game of Thrones is doing it for years, and I don't like it. Whereas here, if they can keep the time jumps to be within a few days of each other, maybe a few weeks, I will be okay. But it's not my favorite way to go about from episode to episode, especially when some of them are not time jumps. We literally come back to Arondir as he is, like, we literally get the same shot of Adar coming towards him. Like, that's the same. There's been zero time has passed from one to the.
Yeah.
So some places are time jumping. Some storylines are going directly.
But the only reason the dwarves time jumped is because there would have been stuff happening to them in episode 3 that we just didn't see.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it works there.
But I think I would just prefer to see a little bit of them in every episode than to lose them for a full episode. That's just me.
Yep.
Okay, so